Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Drew.
And this is our weekly pull list review for September 28th, 2016. So this week we have 3 titles. We've got Blue Beetle #1.
Again.
Yeah, not Rebirth, or it's Rebirth, but it's not Rebirth. Doctor Strange #1 Annual. I'm pretty sure there's been other Doctor Strange annuals, but it's the first one. Descender I've lost track, 15. So let's start off with the first one we mentioned there, Blue Beetle #1. This is Giffen, Collins, and Fajardo Jr.
Yeah. So the gang's at school, and then Cord Industries comes to talk to him for a career day, and then dude makes him go investigate a thing.
Yeah, so
It's stupid as fuck.
it was dumb. I felt like this could have went either way, because it's the guy that created it. So he was either going to take it back to its roots, or he was going to try to do something new and feel like he could. All right, because there's always that chance that when you bring somebody back, they're going to go, well, it's mine, so I can do whatever I want with it, you know? But it seems like this is just a Saturday morning cartoon in comic form. It wasn't enthralling at all for me.
I haven't read, Blue Beetle #1, but I imagine this just to be sort of a modern take on that. I mean, I don't imagine it was a very different feel at all. It was, I don't know if it was distinctly Silver Agey, but it definitely lacked any weight or consequence or character development, which is what I usually associate with those. So.
Right. Yeah, it felt to me like just a bad version of Ultimate Spider-Man.
I could see that.
I'm not interested in it at all. It did not catch me in any way, shape, or form.
It was so bad I don't really want to talk about it that much.
Me neither. I don't think it was awful. It wasn't as bad as, say,
Flash.
Rebirth #1, like, DC Universe Rebirth or Flash. It was maybe almost as bad, but it wasn't like garbage. Like, I managed to make it through without like wanting to just straight up stop. I figured I could at least get through the comic and give a review on it, and then I don't really have anything to say about it because it's just whatever.
Yeah, I think probably about halfway through. I mean, it's not a deep comic at all, but just some of the dialogue was just so scattered and stuff. It got a little bit confusing as to like what was happening.
It got a lot of it confusing.
Yeah,
for as
one-dimensional as it was.
Yeah, it's like, how is this so hard to read when it's so cheap and simplistic, right? How do you fuck this up?
But they did.
They did.
So don't buy it.
Don't. Next, let's talk about Doctor Strange #1 Annual next. This is written by Catherine Eminem, and who else was part of this? Leonardo Romero and Jordi Belair did the coloring. At least that's for the first story, like the main story. Mm-hmm. So what's up here? Yeah,
we got a couple stories. In the first one, they're trying to rebuild the... what is the name of his damn house?
Sanctum Sanctorum.
The Sanctum Sanctorum. Yeah, and they got a contractor, and that goes awry.
And his wife comes back.
Yes. And then in the second story, it's kind of about samurais.
Yeah, it's about some of the other people that are going to be in this new Doctor Strange and the magical, mystical... mystery tour. Yeah, I like the premises here. I wasn't super into it, to be honest. It's an annual, so clearly it's just kind of a throwaway story. I thought it was a fun concept. Like, they have to bring in a contractor. There were some clever little things. I loved the little bit about the difference between a multi-dimensional and an extra-dimensional or something like interdimensional gaskets, and he's like, we ordered interdimensional gaskets. He's like, those don't exist, and that whole thing was fun where it did the 5 years later, and he's like invented them. That was cool, but mostly whatever, man.
Yeah, it was fine. I enjoyed that there was a couple funny moments in it, which we haven't had a good couple laughs in a Doctor Strange in a while. It started out being like kind of funny, I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a funny book in the same way that Ant-Man was, but there was some good stuff in there. then it got kind of more serious as time goes on. So this is a little bit more like that in that regard, but it's not. I mean, Jason Aaron would have done it better.
Right. It's a little bit stilted. I've never been a huge fan of Catherine Eminem or Stuart Eminem, for that matter. I think they're husband and wife. And
they fucking would be.
And, you know, it's... it kind of reminds me... A lot of the feel and the look of it... You know those, like, slice-of-life romance comic strips in the newspaper? Mm-hmm. That's like like each one's just one little piece of what seems like it should be a big long comic. It kind of reminded me of one of those. I can't think of any specific names of any, but...
Well, yeah, because you never pay attention to
Right, but that's what it feels like to me. It's just kind of talking heads walking around. I just wasn't super into it.
Yeah, and the artwork was really nothing to write home about. No. I mean... We have such a high standard for this book anyway, because nothing but amazing artists have ever been on it. So as long as we've been reading it, and this is just, I would say a little bit below standard Marvel.
Yeah, agreed. I did like the part where they're in Wong's, where they go into Wong's bedroom, and it's all crazy intergalactic looking, look like Silver Surfer or something. That was kind of fun. Overall, I'm just not super sold on that, but it's just an annual, so whatever. Mm-hmm. The backup story by whoever these guys were. Who was this? It was...
It's the people that are actually going to write it.
Right. It's like Robbie Thompson and Baraclia and Luridge. I liked it a little bit better, but still not much. I mean, there's just no meat to it.
Yeah, I think, what is it, like 6 pages though?
Yeah.
I think they were trying to give a very deep and contemplative feel to it, and it's just hard to execute in 6 pages. Especially with doing service to the artwork, which, let's be honest, that was the main drawing point of the second story. No pun intended. But, I mean, yeah, it was fine. Really, the artwork in the second story was the best part of this book.
Yeah, I easily agree. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, it feels like an ad for the new series to me.
Yeah.
There was nothing to it. There's no consequence to any of that story. Mm-hmm. And if you don't read the new series, this gives you nothing. And I don't intend to read the new series, frankly. So for me, it feels pointless, like it was a pointless read. It doesn't stand on its own as a piece of work.
Yeah, I think I would almost say that they should cut back on the first story and expand to the second one. I think I would have been happier with that.
I agree. The first one had a lot of pointless filler. Let's move on. Let's get out of DC and Marvel world. Let's go over to Descender number 15 by Lemire and Wynn, or Nguyen.
Nguyen, yeah, weird name. So this story is about, what the fuck was her name? Effie. I really liked it, Effie. Yeah, This is a story about Andy and Effie and how they met and their interaction basically up to this point.
I loved this one.
I fucking love this one. This one was fantastic.
Yeah. When Effie came around on this, or Queen, whatever she was being called, I don't remember now. I thought that was an interesting interaction that they had, and I was like, I wonder what that's all about, and just figured it was one of those things about a long saga where sometimes you just don't learn the backstory. It's all implied by what's being told. Kind of cool to go back into the backstory in this particular instance.
Yeah, this whole issue is the backstory. Mm-hmm. I mean, we didn't progress the plot at all, and I'm totally okay with that. Like,
right.
Which seems to be like a weird trend with this series. Like, anytime we depart from the main story, we like absolutely love it, and then when we get like chunks of the main story, it's like, man, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's these divergences that he goes on that are cool. Like, even when we're following the main story, it seems like the stuff we like best are like these character moments where there's just two people sitting down talking to each other. It's where Lemire really kills the sci-fi, where he's really good is bringing it into like a character drama and a interpersonal relationship kind of thing. Like, as soon as it becomes about the people, it's incredible. And then you break out into the larger world and, well, it's just a normal, like, kind of run-of-the-mill sci-fi story. But A lot of good sci-fi is that way, where it's very character-driven, and I
Sure.
like that this falls into that realm.
I think it's maybe a theme with him as a writer, because I remember reading Sweet Tooth and thinking the same thing. Like, there was this one issue that focused on this little pig girl that had, recently joined the gang, and it was just like one of the most beautiful issues I've ever read. Like, just everything about it was just perfect. Like, the childlike portrayal of the whole story, because it was from her perspective, and then the artwork changed a little bit to reflect that, and it was, what happened. Well, I don't want to get too much into it, but
sure.
Yeah, so.
Well, yeah, and even his Animal Man run was kind of the same way. It was this crazy psychedelic red and the green, and he let Travel Foreman do a lot of this crazy stuff with the art, but on the writing side, really where it shined was every time it was like him and his boy, or him and his wife, or his daughter. Anytime they were interacting with each other, that was like, man, this is so good. This writing is so great. And then it does this crazy stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Wow, cool art. That's crazy, cool art. Oh, and then you focus back in. It's kind of the same with this. It works kind of the same way.
I wish he would do like a coffee and cigarettes type comic, where it's just like two people talking, like different people in each issue, and then it's done after like 10 issues or something like that.
Yeah, he's really quite good with the dialogue and the character interaction. But even that last issue, there was like no dialogue, and he was really great in like how he portrayed that one too. There's just something about his ability to
take it back.
Yeah, pull things in and just show characters. When he focuses on characters, you get really great stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. And props to Nguyen. The art, I think, is even better this time than it was last time.
Yeah, every issue has looked better than the last. This one's the best. Yeah, this one looks really cool.
I think just from like an artistic, like if I showed this to somebody that was like a watercolor painter, they'd be like, how the fuck did he do that? Like, it's just so precise.
Yeah, there's really clever stuff going on in terms of technique. And also, he also told quite a bit of story in here very subtly about, not just filling in the backstory of the characters, but of the world overall.
Mm-hmm. Perspective.
That you don't even really notice as you're reading it, because you're reading this thing about the characters, but all these things that are happening around them as they're being shuffled through is a lot of the story. It reminds me, specifically for some reason, it reminded me of Children of Men. Have you seen the movie Children of Men? It's this very character-driven deal that's set in the near future, and it's very focused on like Clive Owen or whatever his name is, character. But as he negotiates through the world, you learn all about this huge thing that's happening, but it never feels like they're telling you about any of it. There's never this walking and talking exposition moments, right, that you see in so many things, even like, big stuff, Christopher Nolan movies. Right. And I always like to bring those up because I think they're a great example of that. There's just none of that. And here we have the same thing. We're always learning all of these things about this sci-fi world without, like, just being told, this happened, and then this happened, and then there was this, and there was refugees here, and then they moved to here, and then here's Nish, and it's about this. Like, nobody explains these things to you as you read. It's just shown to you. It's really elegantly written and drawn.
Yeah, and I think the focal point of that for this, if that makes sense, if you're following, is just sort of like a political climate, or like a perspective, I guess, just of the world. Because we always have this thing where it's like something bad happens, and then there's the backlash, but then there's the backlash against that. And that's really what we get here. Like, these harvester robots, like, fucked everybody over and killed a lot of people's parents and stuff like that, but then on the other side of that, maybe going around and killing every robot that you can find is maybe not the best response to that kind of thing.
Right. And it's like he has these big themes and ideas that he wants to show you about the world. He says, okay, these two characters represent that. But instead of leaving it at that, right, and just doing some quick dialogue to tell you the point, he turns it into a good moment of character interaction, right? So he uses these larger ideas to frame the narrative, and then actually gives you quality dialogue and nice character development
and those
inside of that narrative.
Yeah, and those narratives like build the characters up into who they are. You get to see defining moments, for these people, and again, why they are the way they are. It's beautifully executed.
It is. Yeah, this is fantastic sci-fi. I am a huge science fiction fan in terms of Non-sequential art literature, sci-fi is like 85% of my wheelhouse. Like I've read a ton of sci-fi. And you don't see a lot of good sci-fi in comics. So I'm really happy right now that we have two really incredibly good sci-fi pieces that feel like they belong in the pantheon of quality sci-fi, because for so long there was really little to none. Mm-hmm. You know, it's been really rare to see good sci-fi. So I'm loving the fact that on our pull list we have two really great pieces of sci-fi.
Yeah. And this one I think is going to be going on for a while. We got one more issue of Vision and that's going to be it. But I think this one's been successful enough and it feels like we're far enough away from a conclusion. I wouldn't be surprised if we got at least another like 15 of these.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this is going to go for a while. Unless there's just some crazy everybody meets up at once on accident. You know, it could be one of those where it just, whoa, surprise, everybody's here, now we got to deal with it. Mm-hmm. I could see that occurring, but I don't think that's really Lemire's style, is it? He likes to languish about.
Yeah, again, Sweet Tooth was like 30-something issues, mm-hmm. and I mean, this being on Image, like, there's not going to be an editor that says, okay, you got to wrap the shit up.
Right.
We need you on, Bloodshot. Shit's blood. Well,
that pretty much wraps it up. Don't read Blue Beetle. Doctor Strange, you can pass on if you're not a completionist, and Descender continues to be awesome. What do we got coming up? Next week we're talking about something kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it was the consumer's effect on the comics, the market, something like that.
Yeah, we're trying next week to get at how consumers affect the comic book landscape. Mostly a focus on the large publishers, but a little bit of talk as well about indie and how that all relates. Mm-hmm. So come back and check that out. That'll be out early next week, so a little less than a week from now, 4 or 5 days maybe tops. Mm-hmm. Other than that, what did you think of these? Did you guys read any of these? Descender especially. On that note, actually, here's something I'd like to know. Sci-fi. Since we've got a few sci-fi books that have been really good, is there anything else we should read? I keep seeing over and over again people say Saga about sci-fi all the time. I read the first couple issues. I didn't think it was that great. Should I trudge through that knowing that I'm a big sci-fi fan? I would like to know the answer to that. Can anybody tell me that?
Can you?
All right. Go to our things down Facebook,
there. Tumblr.
If you're on YouTube, you can see them all down there. And if you're listening on the podcast, then just type our name into things and you'll probably find us. Because we're on things.
We're on a lot of things.
We got things.